Okay, so we're going to start talking off a little bit about PTC and who they are. So PTC is a company that develops the Windchill QMS modules. PTC is headquartered out of Boston, Massachusetts. They are a $1.1 billion company and have been involved in the product development space for over 20 years. So they have a very deep understanding of their customers' needs and requirements when it comes to product development solutions. In addition to the Windchill product suite, PTC also develops the Creo product suite for our customers' CAD, simulation, and manufacturing needs, the MathCAD product suite, the Arbortext and Isodraw product suite for technical publications and work instructions, and the Insight product suite for our customers' environmental compliance needs. And here's just a quick snapshot of some of the medical device customers that PTC and we work with. You can see a number of different areas within the medical device industry and a broad range of customers. Boundary Systems, which is who Wade and I work for, is a local support network or local support arm for PTC here in the Midwest region. We are headquartered in Cleveland, Ohio, and we support both PTC and our customers within the Ohio, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Kentucky, and Indiana areas. Our value add to our customers and to PTC's customers is our engineering expertise. So people like Wade, who have a deep understanding of the PTC products, have been working with the products for over 10 years, understand the ins and outs of how those solutions work, and then being able to understand how that will help our customers and help you meet your business goals and solve your business problems. In addition to providing support for the PTC solutions, Boundary Systems also provides support for a number of third-party simulation solutions that integrate directly with the PTC products. Some of those solutions include MSC solutions, Nastran, Patran, and Adams for high-end FEA analysis, Mentor-Graphics Flow EFD for any of your CFD needs, and Moldex 3D mold flow solution for any of your plastic injection molding needs. In addition to the simulation solutions that we support, we also are a reseller for Object Printers, or the Object Printer Company. So we can support our customers' rapid prototyping needs, both by selling them machines that they can bring in-house and do the rapid prototyping in-house, or as a service bureau for one-off projects. Let's a little bit about Boundary Systems and PTC and how we work together. What I'd like to do next is just talk a little bit about the different modules within the QMS product suite, talk a little bit about how those modules work together, and some of the benefits of how those modules working together, and then we'll go ahead and pass the presentation over to Wade for the live demonstration. The first module I want to talk about is the non-conformance module. And the non-conformances are important. They're minor issues or quality issues that arise over time that don't necessarily stop the shipping or production of a product, but want to be noted for future analysis of these, for trends or root causes in case it becomes a larger quality issue. And a lot of our customers run into the problem of being able to track that data easily and then be able to do a quick analysis of that information. So oftentimes, maybe a non-conformance is noticed on the shop floor, and then maybe logged in a paper manual or maybe an Excel spreadsheet, but that information isn't necessarily tied back to the product information. So what happens is that when quality decides to do some sort of analysis or find out if there's an actual trend with the number of non-conformances that have been logged, it may take a number of hours or days to find that information and find out which non-conformances tie back to which products. The benefits of working with the non-conformance module within Windchill is that that module is directly integrated into Windchill, so it has direct access to your product data. And so when a non-conformance is logged, it can be tied directly back to a product, allowing for very quick ad hoc analysis from the quality department. The next module is the Ad Hoc Reporting module. So within the QMS product suite, PTC has tools that allow customers to quickly analyze the different non-conformance and customer complaint trends based on a certain product. This is very important for two reasons. One, if quality is looking to do any sort of analysis trend, again, to determine if there is an actual issue over a number of non-conformances and complaints. And two, if the FDA shows up and is looking for specific information or specific non-conformance or complaints, they can quickly gather that information through the ad hoc reporting. What customers often run into is that information, those non-conformance, those complaints, those CAPAs, aren't necessarily all stored in the same place. In order to be able to gather that information, whether for analysis purposes or for regulatory purposes, for audit purposes, it can be very time-consuming and may not even actually be done based on the amount of time that it requires to gather all that information. With the PTC ad hoc reporting tool, both the quality group and other users within the company can quickly get access to information. They can change criteria based on the needs of either the quality group or the regulatory committee that comes in for the audit, and they can quickly gather access to that information and meet those needs of the company. The last module I want to talk about was the CAPA module. CAPAs are very important because this is a corrective action plan that's put in place to be able to solve a quality issue and to prevent it from happening going forward on certain products. Some of the issues that our customers run into is, number one, when a CAPA is initiated, it may be initiated in one system, but that is approved for one department, but doesn't necessarily reach out to other departments. So it may just be something that quality kicks off and engineering and manufacturing may not be involved in. We have a workflow that just addresses one department's needs. The other issue is that, again, the information is not all stored in the same place, so it may take a number of days, hours, weeks to gather that information to be able to complete the CAPA, and then be able to store that information and have a record of it going forward for when the FDA shows up, for an audit. The benefit of working with the CAPA module within Windchill is, again, the CAPA module is stored within is integrated directly within Windchill. You can create a CAPA and tie it directly to a product. You have all of that information stored within Windchill, so once the CAPA is complete, you have a complete record of everything that has been done. Who's touched it, who's touched the CAPA, who's completed the process, those types of things. So when the FDA does show up for a regulatory audit, you have all the information stored in a singular location and can quickly be pulled up to meet those regulatory requirements. That's a little bit about the different modules. So what I'd like to do now is just kind of walk through the workflow of how these different modules work together and some of those benefits. And I want to look at it from two different aspects. One, do a linear walkthrough, and then also two, walk through a closed-loop view of it working across multiple departments. So, this is the linear version of walking through the process. So you start off with a non-conformance. So say someone shipping notices that the color of a certain product is changed from what they had previously. Not a big issue, but something they'd like to note in case the vendor continues to do this going forward. So through the non-conformance module, you go ahead and log into Windchill, quickly note that non-conformance, tie it back to a specific product, and boom, you're done. That information is now stored within Windchill and can be used for analysis further on down the road. Across the building, someone in customer service notices a complaint from a customer, or receives a complaint from a customer. Maybe the faceplate of a certain monitor has cracked. They make a note of that, put that complaint within Windchill, and then tie it back to a specific product, and boom, that information's been captured and is now stored for future analysis. Let's say the manager of quality has a meeting that week with the engineers to talk about, just to do a design review or to review all outstanding quality issues. With the ad hoc reporting module, the quality manager can quickly log into Windchill, pick a specific set of criteria, so maybe they want to look at all the non-conformance and customer complaints for a specific set of dates. They have that report. They can walk into the meeting. It doesn't require 2 or 3 hours of prep to be able to create that report, and they can then have a valuable discussion with the engineers on how to solve these problems. Let's say they want to change the criteria of that report and do further analysis within the meeting. That quality manager can log into Windchill right there in the meeting, change that criteria on the fly, create another report, again, allowing them to quickly analyze trends or root causes of problems that are out there. If they decide that there is an actual quality issue and they want to kick off a CAPA, while they're there in that meeting, they can kick off the CAPA right from Windchill. It will kick off an out-of-the-box workflow. That will then kick off the change process that can then be completed in a timely and efficient manner. That's looking at this from a linear process. Another way of looking at this is what we call a closed-loop process or closed-loop solution across multiple different departments, which normally and typically cannot be done for our customers because they're working within multiple systems for different sets of data. So within the Windchill QMS module, because all of those modules are working within Windchill, they're all within the same database, you can gather that information, the quality department can gather that information, the non-conformance, the complaints, kick off a CAPA. Once they've kicked off that CAPA, there's a change process within that CAPA that can then be pushed to engineering. And again, it's important to note, no one has stepped outside of the Windchill system. This is all being done within the Windchill system. Engineering completes their changes to the design. They then push that process over to manufacturing, which will make their process changes out on the floor. Manufacturing will push it back to engineering to approve, to close out that change process. Once that change has been completed or approved by engineering, it is then pushed back to the quality group to monitor for effectiveness. And so again, it's very important to note this is all one system, one closed loop process. All that information has been documented within this one system. So when the FDA shows up on the doorstep, you can this CAPA is tied to a specific product. You can then pull up that CAPA and you have all the information of the process that was completed within your fingertips that you can quickly present to the FDA. That's all I had to talk about as far as the different modules and the processes. I'm now going to turn it over to Wade for an actual live demonstration of these different topics we just talked about. If you have any questions after today's meeting, please give Wade or myself a call or an email directly, and we'll be happy to help where we can. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Francis. So this is Wade Moravec. I'm one of the technical specialists and PLM specialists for boundary systems. And like Francis said, I'm going to walk you through the live demonstration here of the Windchill quality modules. We'll also talk a little bit about core PDM link, which is sort of the core data management module within Windchill, because a lot of that functionality also goes into sort of quality and regulatory compliance and some of those things. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. If you do have any questions, like Francis said, you can enter them over on the right side of the screen in your GoToWebinar dialog box, because we do still have everybody muted here. Once I get through the demonstration, I'll unmute everybody and open it up for questions if you have any at that point as well. All right. So Windchill, in general, again, is a product lifecycle management and data management solution that is web-based. And so to access Windchill, sort of the core capabilities as well as the quality management solutions, I'm just going to go in through a web browser. I'm going to go to the appropriate URL, and it's going to ask me to log in. So I'm going to log in as Pat. And that login is going to both keep the system secure as well as tailoring the environment to my user. So, for example, this home page can be tailored to show the information that applies to me. I have quality action links turned on at the top here, so I can very quickly create a new nonconformance or a new CAPA request. And so if that's my primary role is as a quality specialist, I don't have to go hunting throughout the system to access the area where I can create a new CAPA. I can do it right from my home page, get in, create that, and get back out again. I have my tasks listed below there, and so any of these assignments that are going to come to me through these out-of-the-box workflows or any configured workflows if we've gone in and made changes to more closely match our own internal processes, those are going to show up through my tasks window. I also have the option of having them emailed to me. And then down below, I also have some report options and some updates listed. And I can quickly and easily make changes to what information is going to be shown here just by checking and unchecking boxes through my my Customize tab. Furthermore, if I want to see my tasks listed above my quality action links, I can drag and drop the order in which those are going to appear right up here at the top. So very flexible interface, very fluid. It's easy to allow me to configure it to access the information that I want. So like I said, I have this quality-focused user experience based on my role. And let's say I just came in to log a non-conformance. So we have a potential issue here. I want to log that and record it into the system. When I first choose that option, it's just going to ask me for some general information. So I can provide a name here. Specify who this was originated by, so I can go select an existing user in the system that I want to associate this to. So maybe I'm logging this on behalf of somebody else. I can also specify an originating location, so we can set up different sites. If we have different manufacturing facilities or different suppliers, I can specify where that originated from. I can choose a non-conformance type, and anything that shows up in any of these pull-down menus is going to be a configurable option. You can go in and adjust what types of options you're going to have in there. I can specify what shift reported it. I can specify a non-conformance category, and so this is where I can select different options. Like this is a material product. It's a hardness issue with the material that we got in. And by categorizing things as well as defining trending categories, it's going to allow me to utilize that ad hoc reporting capability that Francis talked about. It's going to make it a lot easier for me to go in and find related nonconformances and identify potential issues where we're going to want to take a corrective or preventative action. Affected objects, and this is where we really get into the benefits of using a Windchill quality solution as opposed to sort of a standalone point solution, and that's the ability to go out and identify data that we're already managing in the system. And so that could be CAD data, it could be standard documents, it could be CAD data, anything that you're managing in the system, work instructions, standard operating procedures. Now I can go in and I can tie this nonconformance to the actual data that is being affected. So I'm just going to do a search. Actually, I will select a context. So I can narrow this down to a specific product. And so I'm going to specify that this is in my Raptor assembly product. And now I can do a more specified search, and now I can go in and specify, maybe it's one of my Raptor fingers is the component that's actually going to be affected by this. What's cool is I can put in additional information. I can identify trending categories that relate to those specific options. So I can basically specify that for the overall nonconformance itself as well as for the affected object. And then finally, I can add attachments. So if I have additional documentation, I've already done some research and sort of pulled together some additional information, I can upload additional files that provide additional sort of supporting information and documentation on those issues. In this case, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to go ahead and finish that. And so, you can see at the top, I have a wizard that walks me through that process. It tells me very clearly that my nonconformance was created successfully. And now if I go in and I just refresh my screen here, it's also going to identify that I have a new nonconformance review task for that particular object that I just created. It's going to allow me to go in and based on the workflows, provide additional information, make decisions about how we want to handle this particular issue that we've come across. And so in this case, I clicked on that task. It showed up to the user that originally logged it. Obviously, that's not always going to happen. You can specify just by putting your users into roles on the team who should get each of these different tasks throughout the process. And at the top, it specifies my action. It wants me to enter review details. If I'm not sure exactly where in the process we are right now, I can just click up in the corner, and it shows me what are the different steps that we go through once I've logged a nonconformance report here. So right now we're at the evaluation step. This is where I'm evaluating this to see if we need to move forward and do additional investigation. So I can go to my review details here, and it's going to allow me to specify the type of business impact we're going to have, whether or not further investigation is required, and do we want to continue the nonconformance or cancel it, or do we need to still gather additional information? Over here on the left, I have the ability to expand out basically my nonconformance structure. This is going to give me a summary of what is the details specified for the nonconformance itself, what were the affected objects. So if I had multiple affected objects, it would list all of those in there, and also what are the additional sort of trending categories and all of those things that we've defined in here. So again, it's one focused area that provides me all of the information that we've defined up to that point. And again, if I've determined that we need additional information in here, I can come in and I can save that. I can save that without necessarily completing the task. So I can come in, I can provide some information. I realize that I still need to do some additional investigation. I can set that up, I can add that in there, and I can still delay the decision until I've gathered that additional information. That's a quick example, again, just using the wizard-based approach of creating a nonconformance and going in and starting to address that task. Once I start to log some issues in the system, again, I can come in to my quality context and actually get a quality-focused user experience that allows me to investigate multiple nonconformances and kappas in a single location. And so here I've just come into my nonconformance, essentially my module, and it gives me a list of all of the open nonconformances, or I could look at the closed ones, or I could look at incomplete ones. I can create my own custom views in there, and I can see based on the state that all of these are at different states. So for example, if I go into my demo nonconformance here and look at the details, I'm going to be able to get a lot of additional information about that. Once again, I can go in and get a quick graphical view of where I currently am in the overall process. So this one is also at that evaluation state that the previous one was just at. I can go to my structure tab, which is going to basically allow me to view that same detailed level of information for a nonconformance, or later I'll show you have the same options within a kappa without having to be in the midst of a task. So I just want to come in and get this additional information. I can see my affected objects. I can see my trending categories. If I want to see more information, okay, this is this tube adapter. What does that actually look like? Once again, because I'm in Windchill, where I'm actually managing all the data, I can link directly to that CAD object, and I can see what it looks like. I can even click on my thumbnail. I can launch it into Creo View, which is the free viewer that's embedded in every seat of Windchill, and that's going to allow me to come in, view that in more detail, add annotations, perform measurements. And so if I do have something that's related to actual geometry type issues, I can document those and save those as annotations on these viewables, and that's going to be just 1 or 2 clicks away from the nonconformance report or the corrective action. So I'm just going to back up here. Again, I'm in a web browser, so I can just use my back button to get back to my, my nonconformance. Just show you some of the other ways that I can access additional information here, just using the tabs across this information page. So in my timeline tab, it actually gives me a timeline view. It was a while back that there we go. I set this up. And so you can see, back at end of November was the intake and evaluation periods for this. As you go through and you provide additional information and you, once again, move this, through its life cycle, you're going to get additional information provided in that timeline. So again, it's just a nice graphical way of viewing that information. I can go to affected objects. Again, this is going to show me, what parts or documents or other data that's managed in the system is affected by this nonconformance. I can view other related changes. And so in this case, no other changes are actually related to this nonconformance yet. So, again, it's still at that evaluation period. We haven't, escalated it to a kappa or, anything like that. But if we had, it's going to show that link in here. And I can also see, again, just the history, where this is within its overall process and what stages it's gone through up to this point. Let me go in and look at another nonconformance that's moved a little bit further down the path here. I'm going to go back to my overall list of nonconformances. I'm going to look at, here I have one that some cleanliness standards were not met. And I can see that's at the disposition state. And I'll be able to come in and see, okay, we're actually defining a couple of different disposition dispositions on some different objects here. And so both of these are in progress. But you can see I've already gone through that evaluation and disposition plan and material review board options that we hadn't gotten to in the previous one. Similarly, if I go back to affected objects here, I can still see what object is affected. But if I go to my changes, I can actually see I have a kappa that is related back to this nonconformance. So, not all nonconformances obviously are going to result in a kappa, but when one does, it's going to record that history. I'm going to be able to go in and see this kappa might be tied back to multiple different nonconformances, and I can tie all of that together. And so here I can see for this kappa, I can see what state that's at. And again, I'm going to be able to go back similar to the way that I can for nonconformance. I can see where it is within, again, the overall process that I need to go through when I'm defining a corrective or preventative action. So let me go back to my overall list of nonconformances and show you, again, for this material quality nonconformance, I have a disposition plan state that I'm at. And so I'm able to go in and access either through the details of the nonconformance or through my tasks page, I can access the current task. And so here it's showing that I've been selected to prepare the disposition plan for that nonconformance, and up at the top I can just select that. And once again, we're back into that same interface that we reviewed before, where it's going to show me the list of affected objects. In this case, one of my parts and a couple of different documents are all affected by this particular nonconformance. And I can come in and review all that information, set up the additional information that we need here. And if I hit next, it's just going to walk me through, again, defining all of the items that are involved, adding the dispositioned items. And once I've defined that, now I can finish, and it's going to move on to the next step in that overall process. So again, it just sort of walks you step by step through what needs to be done, and it routes those tasks to the correct users. And then it also is going to give you tools for going back and investigating those things and generating reports. And that's one of the real valuable areas here is not just going in and setting these things up, because it's pretty easy to type in a bunch of information. Anybody can do that. But how do you go back and evaluate that information? How do you determine if you're running into similar issues in the same area repeatedly and you really need to do something to resolve that? And so that's where the reporting tools come in. So if I go to reports here, and again, this is getting to my ad hoc reporting capabilities. I can go in and tell it I want to generate a nonconformance report. And what it's going to do is basically give me a big checklist of what types of information I want to include in the report. And in addition to choosing what I want to include in the report, I can also filter it by specific values. So I can go in and specify I want to show the name and number. I want to show who it was requested by and originated by. I can specify a category to show the category code and trending codes or paths. And as I select that, when I hit generate, it's going to generate a report that, again, includes all of that information for me. And so you can see I just included some basic information on all of those different nonconformances right there. Now, there's a pretty big list of information that I can include in there. I obviously don't want to set that up every single time that I need to come in and generate a similar report. And so what I have the ability to do is save reports. And so I have a couple reports here. I want to see all of my nonconformances that are set to the state of potentially nonconforming. And so I can select that. It's going to automatically adjust all of my information here. You can see the item state is set to a potential nonconformance. It's going to generate that report. and it's going to filter out and provide the information according to the way things were set up in that saved report. You can do the same thing with like your trending categories. And so as I go in and set up a nonconformance and I fill out that information for what category does it fall into, what are my different trending values that I'm specifying, I can specify I want to see everything trending by supplier items. So these aren't things we're manufacturing. These are nonconformances with supplier items. Again, I can generate that report and very quickly access that information. Once I've generated this report, I can filter by the different categories. I can go in and filter by or sort by category path. And I'm also able to go in and actually export that list to an HTML file or an Excel spreadsheet or an XML file if I want to be able to access that external to Windchill. That's, again, one of the real valuable tools that you get within the nonconformance and the CAPA modules is this ability to generate these reports on the fly and also to save them. And I showed you back at the beginning of the demonstration, on my home page, I actually showed my reports options on that home page. And so here are those saved reports, the same ones that I just saw in that pull down. I can go in and show, okay, I want to see all my reports based on the trending category of manufacturing and assembly, and it's going to automatically launch and generate that report for me. I don't necessarily have to go through into my quality context and go to the reports page and all that. I can just jump right into the report on those objects. So again, that's quite a bit about just the nonconformance module, the ability to go in quickly, easily create a nonconformance, tie it to the data that's actually affected, that's already being managed in the system, do some analysis on it and generate reports to identify trends within those nonconformances and identify certain areas where we need to escalate to a corrective or preventative action. And once we've identified that, now I'm in a very similar interface for going in and creating a CAPA request. And so here we have some existing CAPA requests already created. If I create a new CAPA, you can see very similar interface to generating that nonconformance. It shows me the different steps I'm going to have to go through up at the top. I'm going to specify a name, a subject type. Is it a process change? Is it a personnel change? Is it a product change? The source, so maybe this is coming from one of those nonconformances. Are objects affected by this? So if yes, I'm going to be able to select, again, documents or CAD data or something that's going to be affected by this corrective action. If I choose no, it's going to skip over that step. You can see it simplified the process for me. Is the investigation completed? No, we need to do some additional investigation. I need to specify the site. Mandalay Industries. And again, I can add attachments for that supporting documentation, and I can associate changes. And so again, this is where I'm going to be able to go back and do a search for a nonconformance or a problem report or something like that that's actually related to this CAPA request. And that's sort of an interesting point is, I'm not limited to tying my CAPAs to nonconformances. I can also tie a CAPA to, like a problem report. So it sort of ties back into sort of the core PDM link change management capabilities, your problem reports, your engineering change requests, and engineering change notices. And that gets into the closed loop process that Francis had the slide on. Okay, based on this, we may need to make some engineering changes. Okay, we can create an ECN that references the CAPA as its change request. So here's an example. I want to go in and take a look at this improved gripper assembly CAPA. When I click on that one, you can see again this is in its evaluation stage. This is pretty early. The current task is to do a CAPA review. So we're going to go out and review the CAPA request and determine how do we want to make these changes, or do we really need to make a change here. If I go to affected objects, you can see, I have multiple different objects that are affected by that one. If I come back again, to my my kappa list and look at one that's a little bit further down the path, this one is in the planning stage. And so again, my affected objects, in this case I have a top-level assembly and I have some work instructions that are affected. But if I look at the current state, this is in the planning state. I'm in the process of planning, how are we going to go about taking this corrective action. So, previously, if I'm in the evaluation state, I may be doing detailed investigations to try to define what's the root cause of the problem, what's the extent of the problem, things like that. Now I've already documented all that information. I'm actually coming up with a plan to correct it and prevent future occurrences of that same issue. And then if I have something in the implementation phase, the implementation phase, we've actually already put the plan together, and now I can see I've actually defined multiple different activities that have to occur in order to completely implement this corrective action. And so both of those are currently in the implementation. So it's very easy to go in and just sort of see for each of these different kappas, what state is it in, what's the current plan look like, and if I want additional detailed information on that, that's where I'm going to be able to come back to the Structure tab. I'm going to be able to view that information. That's sort of looking at things from, again, that quality-focused side of things. I'm interested in, what are the non-conformances that people have created in the system, what are all my trending categories, generating reports, sort of boiling that all down to where I can get some useful information about it, about how we need to deal with those non-conformances. And that may be creating a kappa and moving forward with corrective action. I can also view this, again, because we're working in a system that's all totally integral, that's doing the data management and the quality. I can go in and view this from sort of the product side. So I can go into a specific object, in this case, this Raptor product, and if I just view the details on here, I can get high-level product information. I can view the overall product structure, which is basically going to show me my bill of materials, and allow me to, again, actually visualize this product. And so here I'll be able to see, what does that product look like. And I can get information just by selecting an item in the viewable. It'll highlight it over here in the structure. I can see additional information. I can go in and tell it I want to see my related documents and CAD documents within that structure. So I can see that top-level assembly, is tied to in this case, a SolidWorks assembly. It could be many different CAD systems providing that data. And then it also has a lot of different documents associated with it. I have some quality inspection sheets. I have a quality record, validation record, work instructions. And so this sort of gets into the other side of quality management for medical device and regulatory compliance and things like that. Is there's often not a really well-defined process. It's just that you have to define that process internally, and you have to document the fact that you're following that process. And so being able to manage those documents, tie those documents to the objects that they're related to, and manage any changes that may be made to those processes or people being trained on the processes or anything like that. Again, Windchill gives you the tools to do all of that, as well as, once again, tying out to the actual problem reports, non-conformances, kappas, changes, all of those things. And so you can see here, this is where I've now gone to view all of the changes that are related to this particular product. And in this case, I have a problem report, which is again coming more from the engineering change side. I also have several different non-conformances, which is coming more from the quality side. And then I have a couple of change requests. These are again kappas that are related back to all of these sort of issues, the problem reports and the non-conformances. So again, I can get it if I'm more of a product engineer. I can see what are all the changes that are related to this product. If I'm more of a quality specialist, I can go at it from the quality side, and then I can see what's actually being affected by these quality issues. What if I have some new documentation that I need to get into the system? So I'm generating information that, again, is supporting, if I go back to some of my related documents, I have some standard operating procedures. Those are things that are maybe coming from a library. Those standard operating procedures are going to apply across a lot of different products and different contexts. I also have a couple of documents that are generated specifically for this product. Work instructions for assembling this product, test results, things like that. Again, all of that is sort of stored right here with this product. So I'm a user. I need to go in and upload a document that's going to be sort of maintaining the quality of this. Very easy. I can actually do it right through Windows Explorer. I have what we call desktop integration that allows me to browse my Windchill environment basically as if it were sort of a folder on Windows. And so I can go into the location where I want to store this information, which is going to be that Raptor product. And I basically just wanted to find some user instructions. So I'm just going to drag and drop that Word document into Windchill, and that's going to automatically give me the options that I need to define to fully define a document within Windchill. And so in Windchill, I can define different types of documents that are going to have different levels of administrative control. They can have different attributes associated with them. They can follow a different life cycle and workflow process. And so in this case, this is just going to be a standard document. I can add any additional information that I need to in there. When I hit OK, it tells me that that was created successfully. It warns me that I left my Word document completely empty. It doesn't particularly like it when I don't actually type anything in there. But it creates that placeholder there for me that's going to allow me to go in and, again, check that out later and make additional changes to it. And once I've done that, now maybe somebody else that's more of a full-time user could go in and build the relationship between that and the product. So that's sort of how you can manage your documents. And again, that's not just limited to documents that are related just to this product, but it's also things like, if I go to my libraries, I can have a quality documents library. So maintaining, like your master record and your history record of a product and of your processes, you can do that through a library. And so here I have a quality record for my Raptor product. I can specify inspection sheets that we're maintaining in the system. So all of that documentation that currently may be paper-based or sort of spread out over multiple different systems, you can manage all of that in one location. Again, you can tie it back to your actual product data. Another thing that you can manage in the system, again, we're managing all of our documentation. We have a lot of control over exactly how we can manage that and rev control it and what types of processes it's obeying that are, again, repeatable and automated and fairly rigid to make sure you always adhere to that same process. We can also manage, like training records. And once again, you may want to view those records from a couple of different ways. And so one way we can do that is we can go into our training records library, and I can get a list of all of my workers that maybe need to be trained on different things. And so maybe I'm interested in seeing what, Wade Morvik, that's me. What have I actually been trained on? I can go to my information page, and I can just go to my training tab. And I have a training view where I can access this information. Basically, the way we've set up the training record here, and again, you have a lot of flexibility for how you would define this, is we've defined 3 levels that I can be trained to. And for each of those levels, I'm specifying whether I've been trained, who approved it, that I really did complete the training and any testing that was required, and what date was that completed on. And so this is just going to show for every different sort of process or activity that I've been trained on, it's going to give me that information. So I've just been trained on 2 things. Raptor assembly, I've been trained to level 1 as of December 8th. And sterilization of instruments, which is more of a standard procedure, I've been trained up to level 2 as of December 9th. If I go back and look at a different user, we can look at Abe Froman. And he's just been trained on that Raptor assembly procedure, but he's been trained all the way up to level 3. That's one way that I can view that information is, okay, I have all of my users. Let me go see what each of those users has been trained on and to what extent. I can also go in and view if I do a search for my Raptor assembly instructions, I can view it from this side. So this is my work instructions for the Raptor assembly. This is the process that my users need to be trained on. Now I can also go to the training tab from here, and I can get this information on who are all the users that have been trained on this process. And so again, it shows that both Wade and Abe have been trained on this, and it shows the level to which they've been trained. And so in this case, again, I've been trained just to level 1. Abe has been trained all the way up through level 3. And so again, that's a lot of times if you're being audited, okay, who's been trained on this process? There's sort of 2 ways that they'll ask the question about training. Who has been trained on this process? And so you can go to the process and you can quickly see, here's all the users that have been trained on it. Here's the level to which they've been trained. Here's the approver. Here's all of the documentation. Or, okay, let's take a look at this user. What processes are they approved to be able to do? You can also attack it from that direction. And again, that's the key thing with Windchill is, it's a very flexible system. You can configure it a lot of different ways, just using sort of the GUI-based tools to go in and configure it to manage the processes that you want. And so the key thing is to determine what do we need to track, how do we want to track that, what approval processes does it need to go through, and you can capture all of that in the system, along with, again, managing some of the out-of-the-box modules, the non-conformances, the CAPAs. You have your reporting capabilities, all of those things. We're starting to get close to 1 o'clock here. The last thing I wanted to talk about was just electronic signature, because that's one of the other very specific requirements within a lot of the FDA compliance is having to have electronic signature on approvals and things like that. And so basically when I have and I think I turned this off in my system at some point, so it's not actually configured for it, but when I go in and set up a specific task, so I can have a task to implement a specific action within one of these CAPAs, if I go to that task, I'm going to go in, I'm going to enter all the implementation details, and down at the bottom, I'm going to have to complete the task. And so right now, if I choose to complete that task, it's just going to go ahead and let me complete that. For each of these activities within the workflow setup, you can just specify that signing is required. It's a checkbox in the setup for the process. You say signing is required. Once you've done that, when I hit complete task there, it would have given me an error because I hadn't entered my username and my password. And so there's sort of 2 different levels of electronic signature that might be required depending on that specific situation. One is that you just have to re-enter your password. The FDA regulation is you have to re-enter username and password. And so you set it up, tell it you need to require username and password. And again, basically all it's going to have is down at the bottom here, next to where you complete the task, a field for username and password. Enter that, and then you'll be able to complete that task. So easy to set up, easy to do from a user perspective. It's just that one extra step of re-entering that information. So that's the main things that I wanted to show you. Again, sort of the key takeaways, just to do a quick recap. Using the Windchill quality management solutions, some of the big benefits are Again, it gives you a quality-focused user experience that allows you to quickly access your CAPA and your non-conformance information. It's easy to go in and from your home page create a new quality item, a new CAPA or a new non-conformance. It gives you very flexible reporting tools to go in and do some of the trend analysis and try to get more information about this and help you come to solutions faster. And it's also tied into, again, all of your product data. It's tied directly into the data management system. And that's going to allow you to build these direct connections back to everything that's being affected by these corrective actions. You're not sort of managing the quality elements in one area and then having to go in and sort of manage the actual product data somewhere totally different and having to look up on sort of a third location of Excel spreadsheets or paper-based forms or something like that. What is the link between these? It's all managed in that one, integrated and secure system. So let me go ahead and unmute everybody now and just open it up for questions. If anybody has any questions, I'll unmute everybody here and try to spell them out.
Look on my desk, right towards the middle of the desk, there's a gray cable. It's sticking there. That gray cable,
I can't see the gray cable.
A place where you can plug that in. It only plugs it in one place on your laptop. You can plug it in that way and it'll use the wired connection.
Okay, let's unmute people one at a time and see.
Side, plug it in and just use it.
Okay, found who that was. So again, any questions on, again, sort of creating a non-conformance or creating a new CAPA request, or how you can relate those back to product data or to other change objects, reporting, any of those things?
Yeah.
Well, question. All right. You didn't mention the design history file, but I'm sure that that's part of this capability. Am I correct on that?
Right. Design history files, again, that sort of gets into just core PDM link capabilities. So design history file, first of all, it can just be a document type that you're managing in a library, but it's also, just through, if I go back here, in managing all of the history of changes and things like that, PDM link is going to just, as a part of its nature, manage, if I go back here, the history of every object in here. And so I can go back and see, all of the incremental and major revision changes to, every document, CAD documents, everything that's managed in the system. So you always have that history, and then if you want a single sort of design history file that sort of tracks that and then gets sort of signed off on, again, you can manage that sort of like I was showing through the quality library. You can have a library of quality documents where that's, it's not documents that are going to be changing sort of interactively. It's just we sort of finalize this design. We need the design history file that sort of shows all of that in one place, that if we're in an audit and they say, hey, you need to show us this, we go to one spot and just pull up. Again, it could be just PDFs of the documents. We can come in and store those in here. So that's, again, that sort of comes back to a core sort of data management and document management capabilities of Windchill PDM Link. It's not really a separate module. Does that sort of make sense in terms of how you'd be able to manage that?
Yeah, sure does. Thanks.
Okay.
I had a question. I wanted to understand a little better how you keep separate officially released drawings as opposed to drawings that perhaps engineering is in the process of revising.
Could you repeat that? I had a little trouble hearing.
Sure. My question was, how do you manage to keep separate the officially released drawings? Suppose the last approved version of a drawing, say it was Rev 2, and at the time engineering may be working within Windchill to revise that drawing to F3, but it's not officially out yet. What
okay,
kind of do you mean to keep those separate?
Okay, I think I understand what you're asking. You're basically saying, how if there's a design or a drawing or a part or an assembly that's currently undergoing some changes. It's within a change process. We're going to have a new revision at some point. But that's still undergoing a lot of changes. How do we identify the last, really released or the real production version of that design?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, and again, that's sort of core PDM link. If I go back, I'm not sure how well I have this set up in here, but if I look at my structure here on again this Raptor product, actually I'll just go back to the details. Each item within Windchill is going to have a life cycle, and so that's what's shown down here at the bottom. The life cycle for this object type is in work, released, effective, or canceled. And so that life cycle, along with the revision, and currently this is just at Rev A, is going to allow me to manage those types of things. So let me go see if I have another product that maybe shows this a little bit better. Nope, everything's still Rev A. Well, there's one example is this one part, you can see this engine top part is released, whereas everything else is still currently in work. So if I go in and view an assembly, I can tell it that basically the specification for how I want to view that assembly can be latest, or it can be according to a specific life cycle state. So I can go in and edit my filter for this assembly, and you can see right now if I choose latest, that's what sort of my design or my engineering team would want to see, that shows all of the stuff that's just the latest revision regardless of what life cycle state it's at. But I could also tell it show latest released, and now it's going to go back and get what's the latest released version of all of those items. Furthermore, if I want to snapshot at a specific point in time and just say, hey, this is a configuration of this that I want to get back to, I can come in and tell it I want to view a baseline, and now I can come in and specify an actual sort of saved snapshot of that structure from whenever I created that. So you actually have a lot of tools for how you want to manage that, but sort of at its core, it's just using those life cycle states to track whether something's in work or undergoing a production change or is under review versus your released or production version. And just as you view it, as you add it to your workspace, as you generate a bill of materials for it, you can tell it the sort of configuration specification that you want it to satisfy. Is it latest? Is it latest released? Is it as stored? Is it a saved baseline? You have a lot of options. So does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. But your answer created a new question for me. Not trying to dump. But how are the officially released drawings protected from being edited?
How are the released drawings protected?
Yes.
Based on access controls. So your access, every user's access to the objects in PDM Link or in Windchill is going to be based on their role, the type of object, and its life cycle state. So basically, once something goes to released, nobody has access to make changes to it anymore. To make a change to it, it would have to, a new revision would have to be created that's a different life cycle state, or it would have to undergo a formal change process like a CAPA or an engineering change notice. Because that's, at its core, that's one of the real key things you're trying to do, sort of in any data management environment, is make sure we have the flexibility to make the changes we need to, but once something gets to that release state and should sort of be locked in time, make sure that it doesn't accidentally get changed from that point on. And so the tools are built in to do that.
So I'm asking this from a doc control perspective. That's the department I work in. And
Yep.
I'm trying to understand. So when you said that when something's officially released, nothing can ever be changed by anybody. Does that include document control folks?
Well, I mean, you have, again, it's all based on the very configurable access controls that you set up. So, sort of in general, when it's released, you can lock it out so that everybody except the system administrators can't change it anymore. But if document control does sometimes need to make changes to certain types of released documents without having to revise them, that document control role could be granted that level of access. So again, it's there's a bunch of out-of-the-box life cycles and sort of roles and access control policies, but very few companies would end up actually using that because the actual policies that everybody needs are going to be different. And so we always work with our customers to sort of determine who are the different people interacting with the data, what are the different types of data, what type of interaction needs to occur at each of those different stages, and make sure that the system gets configured to, again, grant the level of access that people need, but prevent anything from happening that really shouldn't.
Okay, that was a very good answer. Thank you.
Any other questions so far? Oh, I see a hand up. Maybe. Okay. Well, if there are no additional questions, I will. I'll put our contact info back up here, just in case you guys, think of questions later on. Feel free to get a hold of Francis or myself. We'd be happy to answer those questions for you. And I really appreciate everybody jumping onto the webinar. Have a great afternoon. And like I said, if you do have any additional questions, feel free to get a hold of us. All right. Thanks, everybody.